Hello and welcome, my alligators living in brackish water. It's SJB here, and this is the 5th tier tower extravaganza. All of the 5th tier towers in the entirety of the game are on the screen, except bows and subs. So, we have to ask you, what is the number one best 5th tier tower in the entirety of the game? If you had to pick absolutely just one, well, we have asked with over 1 million votes, which is the best? And today, we're going to finally have that answer for you. But before we get there, of course, we have to talk about the journey. This was obviously a long journey for me and a very tough idea to actually produce for you guys. So if you want to be super duper nice, press the like button and subscribe before we get too deep in here. Today, we're going to rapid fire go through every single tower that we've gone through already. But if you want to watch the actual detailed descriptions of all of these, you can check out the previous video, link in the description. First, Bloon Crush versus Trade Empire. Trade Empire. Cripple Moab versus Plasma Monkey Fan Club. Cripple Moab. Ultra Boost versus Energizer. Energizer. Grandmaster versus Monkeynomics. Grandmaster. Monkey Wall Street versus Ultra Jug. Monkey Wall Street. We're officially down to 64 towers. Now we're starting round 2. Flying Fortress versus Trade Empire. Flying Fortress. Sentry Tramp versus Gigasaur. Sentry Champ. Glaive Lord versus True Sun God. Glaive Lord. Poppin' Off versus Anti-Bloon. Anti-Bloon. Super Glue versus Whoop. We take the Whoop. Elite Sniper and Bomb Blitz. Easy. Elite Sniper. Ray of Doom versus Preemptive. Ray of Doom. Apache Prime versus Megalodon. Apache Prime. Legend of the Night versus Cripple Moab. Cripple Moab. Permabrew versus Puakai. Permabrew. Archmage versus Zarbomba. Easy Archmage. Crossbow Master and Super Strom. Crossbow Master. Carpet of Spikes and Energizer. Carpet of Spikes. Moab Domin biggest one. Biggest one. Banana Central and Homeland Defense. Banana Central. Permacharge versus Sub Commander. Sub Commander. Spirit of the Forest and Grandmaster. Spirit of the Forest. Grand Sabo and Total Transformation. Grand Sabo. Super Riddle and Primary Expertise. Primary Expertise. Sky Shredder versus Elite Defender. Elite Defender. Mad versus Permaspike. Mad. Comanche Commander versus really Big Trap. Big Trap. Inferno Ring versus Moab Illuminator. Inferno Ring. Tax Zone versus Absolute Zero. Easy Tax Zone. Pod versus Monkey Wall Street. Easy Pod. Carrier Flagship versus Bez. Carrier Flagship. Supermines versus Master Bomber. Supermines. Pirate Lord and Monkeyopolis. Pirate Lord. Solver and Special Operations. Solver. Avatar of Wrath versus Icicle Impale. Icicle Impale. BMA versus Superstorm. BMA. Blue Incineration versus Glue Storm. Easily Blue Incineration. Round 2 is officially over, and now we begin round 3. Flying Fortress versus Sentry Champion. Flying Fortress. Glaive Lord versus Anti-Bloon. Easy Glaive Lord. Whoop versus Elite Sniper. Whoop. Prime versus Rod. We got the Prime. Permabrew versus Cripple Moab. Still Permabrew. Archmage versus Crossbow. Archmage. Carpet of Spikes and biggest one. Carpet of Spikes. SJB versus people trying to use this creative support code. SJB. Banana Central and Sub Commander. Sub Commander. Barely. Spirit of the Forest and Grand Sabo. Coughity cough. Primary Expertise and Elite Defender. Elite Defender. Mad versus Big Trap. Mad. Inferno Ring versus Tax Zone. Inferno Ring. Pod versus Flagship Carrier. Pod. Supermines versus Pirate Lord. Gotta give it to the Pirate Lord. Impale versus Solver. Solver. EMA versus Blue Incineration. BMA. And now we begin round 4. Glaive Lord versus Flying Fortress. Flying Fortress. The Prime versus the Whoop. Gotta give it to the Prime. Archmage and Permabrew. Archmage. Carpet of Spikes and Sub Commander. Easy Carpet of Spikes. Elite Defender and Spirit of the Forest. Spirit of the Forest. Inferno Ring and Mad. Mad, baby. Pod and Pirate Lord. Pod. Solver versus BMA. Solver. And now we begin round 5. Now that we've gotten this far, we're down to the final 8 best towers in the entirety of BTD6. You guys, again, voted for all of these. These are not my rankings. These are your guys' rankings, the community's rankings of the best towers. First of all, the Flying Fortress, which is obviously an absolute powerhouse against pretty much everything. The only limitation is the cost. Do you want to spend that much money to get that much beast action happening? Infinite range, infinite power, infinite everything, but you gotta look at the Apache Prime for that cost to awesomeness ratio. He can end up popping a lot of balloons. He's amazing against the Moabs. He can still pop balloons, but his one weakness is still going to be DDTs. And that one weakness is going to hamper him just a little bit, and it's going to lead to Flying Fortress being the winner. Another really interesting matchup, we've got Archmage versus Carpet of Spikes. Carpet of Spikes is pretty much fantastic against almost anything, but it's dominant against the Moab-class balloons. He specifically does tons of extra damage against the Moab-class balloons, and it gives you a nice ability where you can just double dip on top of the abilities that already exist to make almost nothing sneak through your defense. But then we've got to talk about the Archmage, who's easily buffable, one of the best CDT poppers in the game, great against ceramics, Moabs, and kind of everything in between. He's a jack of all trades. In addition, he can decamo the balloons around him, making him even easier to have your other towers pop the balloons. It's a really, really hard matchup here, but Archmage, for just overall funness, creativeness, large range, and good overall popping power, is going to take the cake on this one. This might, as awkward as it is as a matchup, be one of the best tower combos in the entirety of the game. We're talking about the Mad, plus this versus, actually, slash combo, the Spirit of the Forest. Spirit of the Forest, he's nice because he pays for himself over time. He makes you money. He pops balloons anywhere on the screen. He's got a pretty decent amount of popping power as just a regular tower, but it's really these spikes that you could easily use as an ability to blow up on top of that stuff to make him even more powerful. He's just a powerhouse and does pretty much everything you need. Mad does one thing, but he does it so phenomenally well that it's hard to overlook him in one of the best towers ever because he just does Moab popping power, which is clearly one of the biggest issues in the game. You've got to be able to pop Moabs to be good at this game, and that's what he does. In addition, don't forget about that ability, which can blow up tons of missiles all over the place, easily giving you that additional popping power that you're going to need right when you need it. It's a tough matchup, but even so, the Spirit of the Forest is easily going to win with 82% of the vote. Next up, we've got the Pod versus the Balloon Solver. Both of these guys are fantastic towers, but one thing that we have to keep in mind is that Solver has been buffed and buffed and buffed again in all the recent updates, and Pod just keeps getting nerfed and nerfed and nerfed more and more as time goes on. So it's kind of a recency bias situation that Balloon Solver is just in people's mind, but it's because he's really good right now. He's totally one of the best meta towers in the game because he could pop anything, BFBs and below, on almost any map. And that, my friends, is absurd. Of course, he's a little weak against DDTs and not great against Oh My Gods and Bads, but that's where his only weaknesses lie, with the low cost that he actually is. The Pod is the best cleanup tower in the game, unless you want to consider Permaspike as one of those, because he just throws down crap tons of Moabs all over the place to fight against the grain and kill everything that's coming against you. In addition, he's great against DDTs, which is definitely one of the things that's hardest to pop for a lot of Balloons players. So having that on your screen, on the screen, is just nice to have. He feels comfy and good to have on your team. That being said, you guys are still going to vote Balloon Solver. 40% of you guys voted for Pod, and honestly, it's tough to say that Balloon Solver's not worth it right now with 60% of the vote. The semifinals, the final 4 towers that you guys have voted for, is finally here. And first up, we've got the Archmage versus the Flying Fortress. Now, this is a tough matchup in any way, shape, and form because they're definitely used for different things. Archmage is kind of a jack of all trades, but Flying Fortress is technically also a jack of all trades, but just significantly better. But he costs way more money. That being said, you guys know it. The Flying Fortress has just gotta win this one because he's just overall going to be more powerful, even if you talk about price involved here. We didn't even let the Archmage attack at all on round 98, dude. That's why with 71% of the vote, Flying Fortress has gotta win this one. Another crazy interesting matchup. It's the green versus the green. The Solver, again, a recency bias of the fact that he's just got buffed and buffed and buffed again, and nobody is even considering nerfing them in Ninja Kibi right now. The Balloon Solver is just straight up meta. The issue is that Spirit of the Forest is even meta-er because he's been around for a long time and Ninja Kibi has not touched him at all. It's a fan favorite for making money, for popping balloons, for having basically no issues whatsoever. He doesn't really have a good weakness. He can even pop leads with a top path upgrade here. There's really no issues here. We're talking about round 98 with 2 fairly cheap towers here, and we're annihilating everything about halfway through the map. That's just absolute insanity. Now, one of these guys has to take the cake here, and it's got to go to Spirit of the Forest. 68% of the vote for Spirit of the Forest, and I think it's mostly because he makes money. He can make you money, he can pay for himself by the end of the game. If you can make any tower pay for themselves, they basically are a free tower. Why would you not buy them? Only on Chimps mode. And even on Chimps mode, Spirit of the Forest's other awesome aspects still allow you to use him in an effective way. It's kind of ridiculous. And so there can only be one. I don't even need to talk about their strengths or weaknesses. We've heard them all. It's just kind of, realistically, up to your favorite at this point. It's kind of your decision on what you like to use more and what is more usable in most situations. And you guys have voted with 72% of the vote. It wasn't even a close battle here. 72% of the vote. You guys have decided that the Flying Fortress is not going to be the best tower in BTD6. Instead, that must go to the Spirit of the Forest. Raise your hands and bow down to the almighty Spirit of the Forest. He makes money, he pops balloons, he does everything you can want. He doesn't directly have a weakness. You gotta give it to him. He's such a solid tower all around. Ninja Kiwi, please don't nerf him. He's just so fun to use and so good to use. But I have a feeling once Ninja Kiwi sees this, they're going to say, no, Spirit of the Forest, we will take everything away from you. No making money, no popping balloons, no abilities, nothing anymore. Well, let's hope not. Let's hope that that doesn't happen. Again, thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you so much for everything. This was obviously quite the journey here, and I did not know what was going to happen, but I will admit that these were my top 2 seeds. That, I think, is really, really cool. My number 1 seed was actually the Flying Fortress, but my number 2 seed was Spirit... Oh, wait, let me check. Yes, my number 1 seed was the Flying Fortress, and my number 2 seed was the Spirit of the Forest. So we did very, very well here. We know who the best towers are, and we've got to use them better. If you guys disagree with anything in this video, feel free to let us know in the comments below, or if you think anybody got shafted and should have went way, way higher, that's fine. Personally, my least favorite tower that got to the end here was actually the Archmage. I thought that he should have lost to Carpet of Spikes. Carpet of Spikes should have kept going on, and honestly, Carpet of Spikes, in my opinion, might even be better than Flying Fortress. But that's just up to me. If you guys enjoyed, press that like button, subscribe, and have a super duper delicious day.